Welcome back. Today, my guest on the show is Seyi Olusanya. And we've been talking about the fact that is adoption an option. It's been wonderful having you here.
Thank you.
Just before we went on break, we were talking about the emotions and you know the ups and downs of the emotions.
Yes.
Let's go back to what we were saying about that. How you manage your emotions through those periods.
Yeah. Through that period, what it allowed me to do is to really get to know the Lord in a way that even when I look back now, I'm envious of that time because there was a sense of closeness with an intimacy with the Lord.
Yes.
There are a lot of emotions, you know, shame.
Yes.
There's so many things we don't talk about, especially in our society. A sense of not being, you bottle it down. A sense of just not being capable. You know, the sense of being capable of something that everybody just does and you're not able to do it. And then there are times when the emotions are quite high, you know, this sense of elation when, a pregnancy has been confirmed but we don't know, and we're waiting. And then everything is going okay, everybody's there, happy, we're all excited, and there's something happens and the hope is dashed again. So it's like a, you know, topsy-turvy of emotions. But what I'm thankful for is the fact that God placed me in a family where I could be myself. So I could be at a church service and the emotions come and I feel comfortable enough to be able to express it. And you know, nobody's looking at me funny.
And you don't have to
you
be
know,
this perfect.
and those times were not dignifying times. There were times when, you know, when I think back now, if someone were to be doing that in my church now, we look like them, I think, you know, but I could allow my emotions to be raw. And I think in doing that, God really helped me to heal quickly, you know. There's so much that one could say.
So when you then finally go through the adoption process and your son came home, how was the first day? What was that feeling when you know, I know you had gone and met him. And you had also met his birth mom. Mom, isn't it?
So we had that whole process where they call it the introduction. So you go into the foster home where the child is, and gradually you start by spending half an hour with them.
How old was it?
It was 2. So half an hour with them, then an hour, and normally they would give up from between 2 weeks and a month to allow the introduction to happen. But you know, by God's grace, ours took just a week. My son was home within a week or so. So, and you know, we had the privilege, I say, to meet his birth mom, who we have a great relationship with. So that's again for us just a way of God showing us that my hand is in all of this. So it came and on that day, it just felt so ordinary, to be honest. I was happy. We had told people not to come around just so that we would just have that time and then we would not overwhelm the poor child. You know, so it was just us and it felt so natural. He came in, just, Mommy, he started to call me Mom because it took him a long time to call me Mom.
I was going to say, was that
from the first day he called me Mom, actually. But he started to call my husband Dad during the introduction. It was easier for him to do that because he had a bond with his foster mom. So it was a bit confusing for him to now call somebody else. Mom. But from the very first day he came home, he's been a child that has just been exemplary. He hasn't given us any problems. We call him an old soul. He's like an old man. He's so wise. He's just got very unlike us. You know, but that's just the beauty of God because somehow he fits in even with his own nature. And I remember saying to his godmother, because there was a time somebody was trying to bully him in school, and I was teaching him all these things to say this to them.
Don't take any.
Don't take any. And my friend said, Rose, she said, Seyi, you cannot make him into who he's not. And are you saying God made a mistake to make him like this? Because everything that he's going to be is what God has started to, you know, his nature will lead him to what God wants him to be in the future. So don't try and change him. I find that hard. Because I can be a bit, you know, fiery. And
in terms of what you just said, I know you shared an experience with me in terms of the fact that he actually knows he's adopted. And you've sat with him and you've actually, based on what God showed you, you told him about what you feel that God wants him to do in life. Share a bit of that with us, because I think that's quite powerful in managing also his expectations and then his relationship with his other siblings, which we're going to touch on now.
So, we really just believe that he's a gift from God to us, and we'd always told him that you're special. We got to choose you, and the from a very little age, from when he came home, I knew this is the child that God has his hand on. There's so many experiences that he himself had that he would just tell you innocently, and you're thinking,
where did that come from?
Me, I've been praying all of this time and doing all this fasting. Me, I did not have that encounter. So he's a child, and there was a time he had an encounter where God took him to heaven, and he just told us about it, and I keep reminding him.
I remember you shared that with me.
And he woke up that morning and said, Mommy, I'd been in heaven, and he saw God, he saw Jesus, he saw my mom, and the things that he spoke about, the beauty of heaven, the words he used, he was 9 at the time. The words that only I know are things that God had shown him. So I know he's a child whose hand, God is on, God's hand is on upon his life. And I keep reminding him that he's a leader. We talk openly about his adoption because, anything you hide has unnecessary power over you, and the enemy uses that.
Very true.
And I always tell him recently, he's older now, he's 14, his voice recently broke. And, I'm forever teasing him, and, and I told him, I said, Joshua, never be ashamed of your story. Because if you are, people will tell your story in the way that it might not be true. And you might not like.
We're telling his story now.
Yes.
For others
to benefit from. I said, talk about your adoption, because now there's a new level now. He's more aware now. He's remember when he was little. He asked questions. We talk about it. Recently, we watched an adoption video together, and he expressed the desire to meet his birth mom. And I said, yes, why not? Okay. So we're hoping to be doing that soon. Right. And I have no problems about that. We're securing the relationship that we have with him.
Honestly, even now that I'm looking about you, and you just need to know what God's plan is, because if not, if we move out of God's plan, then everything will not go according to things. 2.5 years after Joshua came into your lives, what happened to you after waiting for so many years?
I know. And so one day I was driving home from picking him up from nursery, and he says to me, Mommy, can you buy me a sister? And I said, if I could buy a sister, I would buy a trolley load for you. Okay. Unfortunately, I can't do that, but we can pray. We can. You are an answer to prayer. So we can together pray for God to give you a sister. And he would pray. Even when I forget, he will remind me, Mommy, let's pray for my sister. And 2.5 years later, lo and behold, I fell pregnant, no treatment. I wasn't even aware I was pregnant. It just kind of happened. And he had a sister.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was so sure. From the minute I fell pregnant and we told him, he said, Mommy, that's Olivia. That's my sister, Olivia. He gave her a name. And my husband was like, but we're not sure if it's a boy. Let's try and talk to this child. What if the child comes? I said, well, leave him. And he started to cry when we tried to convince him that it might not be Olivia, it might not be a girl. So we left it. And lo and behold, we had a baby girl.
And after that, you've had
we then had another one, at which point we had to tell God, yes, you cannot, that's enough, thank you, Lord.
You. So would you say that Joshua's coming in a gift, and it was as if God just used him to open doors for the other children to come in?
Most definitely.
Before, I'm not sure if it's before you had your daughter, or you had an experience, wasn't it, that you almost lost your life?
Yes.
As we round up, can you just share that with us?
Yeah. So I think it was about a year or so after Joshua had come home. Okay. I was to, again, finally, I had an IVF treatment that I was supposed to do. Okay. I was so hesitant to do because I didn't want to, And but just prior to when I was about to start the IVF treatment, a sister in my church who I love dearly and respect, she's someone who I know has a heart of God, and told me a word and said, Seyi, I really have a word that is heavy for me to share with you, but I believe it's from God and I'm going to share it. So she did. She said she believed that God was saying that I was going to have a baby girl. I was going to have the baby in November of that year, of the following year, and that the name of the baby will be called Grace. So they're very specific things. And so lo and behold, I had the IVF treatment and it worked. I became pregnant the very first time, number 6 IVF, but the very first pregnancy that would work. So we thought, and then when they gave us a due date, it was in November.
Oh, so two ticks.
So we thought, okay, this is looking good. So we started believing God. We prayed. I was being checked assessed every week. And then I think it was around the week 11, I went for a scan, and they found that the pregnancy had stopped. Oh. Which at that point I just thought, you know what, that this cannot be true. God must want to do something here. Because when the doctor told me, I said, he said, well, let me just give you a week, go away. I remember getting to my house and just pacing up and down my living room for like an hour. Wow. Just screaming my head off and trying to tell God, Lord, you cannot have given me this to want to take it away from me, So the week after we went back and I had prayed, I had all my friends, all my intercessors praying with me, fasting, we all get up. I went back thinking, God is going to show this doctor that is God. That is God, So I went in thinking, okay, they will do the scan and the baby will be back. It didn't.
Nothing.
Week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. By week 6, they were saying,
we need to take the
we need to do something. And all the time they were telling me, come and do a DNC from like week 1 even. They were saying, come and do it. But I said, no, because God has spoken and God doesn't speak and lie. His words are true. So it was a test of faith for me.
I remember you also said that you were still going to church, doing your praise and worship. And the baby inside of you had actually...
So I remember the day before I was supposed to do the DNC, we had a retreat, and I was very much involved with the worship team and the prayer. I used to lead the prayer, the intercessory group. So it was a time where, and how it is with retreat, you have a communal time together, and then you all go away. And anytime I had to minister in any form, either with the worship team or lead a prayer session, the grace of God would just uphold me in a way that I know now it could have only been God. And then once that's finished, I'll go into my room and start praying. And of course, when I'm praying, I get emotional, I'll start crying. And then I realize, oh my goodness, we need to go back. I powder my face, apply my makeup, and run back. And, I left that retreat just trusting God. Because the next day, they're scheduling me to have this DNC. So we got there and I said, check just before you do it. Just before. Because I was still so full of faith. This was 6 weeks after they told me the baby had died, So I went in and did the IVF treatment, did the DNC. Came out of the DNC and needed to use the restroom. And walked just a few yards and I blacked out and started to bleed. Long story cut short, I had to be rushed back to the theater because literally they were losing me. I was losing a lot of blood. And I remember the doctor saying to me, look, you've got to sign this form. And
you were the only one, there was nobody else there.
There was nobody with me, my husband wasn't there. He had said he was going to pick me up, but they couldn't get home. There was a lot of misunderstanding. And it was so quick, everything had to happen so quickly, it wasn't there. So they had to rush me back, but I had to sign this form. Okay, sign the form telling us and giving us permission to take your womb out if we're not able to stop the bleeding, because there's a lot of bleeding and we could lose you. And I said, no, but God has still promised me to have children now, and but I had no choice in the end. And, I want to really make one point here that one thing I've realized, even as somebody who has an intercessor, I do used to pray. I felt that it was my many words that impressed God. But what really, really, really touches the heart of God is your heart communing with His heart. Because at the time when I couldn't really pray for myself.
And that was what happened at that stage.
At that time. Just me, God, and this situation. And all I could muster was just to say, Lord, I commit my spirit, my soul, and my body to you. And, I felt the presence of God. I felt the peace of God just calm me down. They willed me back, brought me back. Still very worried because the bleeding still hadn't stopped. But because I had really pressed upon them that I wanted my womb intact, they left my womb.
And thank God they did, because it was after
that I then had my babies.
And
the doctors looked really worried because they felt like there was nothing they could do, and they were still running tests and whatnot. And in the end, praise God.
Thank you, Lord. You're here to tell the story. Thank God for that. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing your experience.
Thank you.
And our belief is that lives will be touched by what you've shared today, and people would then begin to understand that adoption really is an option if God has laid it upon your heart to do so. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next week on Story Before Glory.
The speech is delayed.
Yes.
You know, so your child is 3, 4, 5, he's not talking yet. And there's nobody that's an expert in everything.